We're going to be talking about the top of the Eastern Conference. Remember when it used to be the Eastern Conference? What a time
Yeah,
that was just a year ago.
and forevermore,
I mean,
except for this year.
I mean, what we might have to have this as like a topic. When was the last time the East was like better, obviously, than the Western Conference? And I don't even know if that's true right now. I know the top is right. Like, I really think this is one of these things where we're doing the top of the East is better than the top of the West, but you go look at like the mid table and the bottom, and you start going, okay, well maybe the West is deeper in terms of like quality teams, but that's not the conversation here. So the Bucks, I don't know if you've heard this, they refuse to lose mostly. They've gone on an insane run. I don't know the exact number. I'm about to look it up. But I believe the Bucks are like 23-2 in their last 25 games, which is absurd. Let's see. They have three losses. They have three losses since what day is this? They started off this run January 23rd. They have three losses since January 23rd. My God. So the Bucks are incredible. Are they now your pick to make it out of the East and win the championship? Have the Bucks done enough over this absurd run to basically say they are the team?
Yeah, I would say so, most likely, right? I think so. Like the Bucks really embody everything I prefer in an NBA team. They're so playoff proof. They're so matchup proof. Like if Brook Lopez being slow is a problem, they can just shift Giannis to the 5. If they need to go bigger, they can run a twin towers with Lopez and Portis and move Giannis to the 3. Like they Middleton to the 2, Holiday to the 1. Like good luck scoring on that. It's just they just have options. They can counter anything that you can do. They can be spaced out, or they can compromise their spacing for size and length and defense. And they're going to be extremely hard to beat, barring injuries. Middleton's rounding back into form. They look really, really tough to beat. I like Boston similarly for like their versatility and cohesion, but I guess it's just simply a matter of like good versus better when it comes to Milwaukee versus Boston. And then as for Philly, I still feel like Harden and Embiid sort of play in silos and like don't really like. I know that their on-off splits together are really good and everything, but of course they are. And they're probably the most talented duo in the league, and they're winning a lot of games lately. And of course, Philly has a chance. I just don't see that synergy or that cohesiveness with Philly that I see with either Milwaukee or Boston. What do you think?
I don't know with the Bucks because this is something that happens in sports commentary, that the recency bias is just, it weighs so heavily on the way people view things. And the Bucks have been absurd, right? I think what's the number? It's three losses in their past 25 games. Yeah, so they're 22-3 are their last 25, right? But what's their record? 51-20. So that means they were 26-17 beforehand, and they also started the season 9-0. So there's like a big portion of the season where this team was below average. And to me, that's the question. It's like that the Bucks come out strong, bad stretch in the middle, great closing run. Do we just say, oh, that stretch in the middle was malaise? Do we say that stretch in the middle was Chris Middleton wasn't back? Whatever, right? And I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. Personally, I think the Bucks look great, and if they play like this, yes, they'll win the title. Like they would be my pick to win the title. But I also think they're playing their best basketball, and this is not going to continue likely into the playoffs at this level. I mean, because functionally speaking, we're talking about a team that over the last 25 games has an offensive rating of 120, right? I just don't see this team having an offensive rating of 120 over that long of a stretch, considering beforehand in their first 46 games. They had an offensive rating of 113. It to me just feels like their 3-point shooting variance has gone the way that they needed it. And this is a team where when threes are falling, it creates the environment that this team needs to have a good, effective half court offense. Because, like, I watch this team a fair amount. My brother is a fan, so I like to, keep tabs on him. If they're not hitting threes, their half court offense gets like bad quick. It's like,
Yeah.
does can Giannis do something? They just look bad. And it's one of those things where when they're not hitting threes, the defense comes off just a step more, right? They're not closing out quite as hard, and it makes things even worse, has a really big cascading effect, negative cascading effect on their offense. So to me, I think they're the best team because I think defensively, when they want to shut a team down, as you said, they have the most answers, and that's what I'm going for. But this run has been about their offense. To me, 120, and I just don't see that being there. Like, even with Middleton coming back, Middleton personally to me, he looks physically cooked. I don't know if that's him still getting his like legs under him, but if you watch him play, he looks physically not there. Like he's fallen down. Like he looks like an old man out there. If that changes, that will change my perception of him. But right now, I think they're the favorites in the East, but like by like the smallest amount over the Celtics, who I think we should talk about next, who have kind of wobbled recently. What do you think about the Celtics' chance of getting out of the East again? Obviously, they got out of the East last year. Middleton was hurt. You know, caveats aside, everyone gets through a series because someone's hurt, right? Like, I don't want to hear any of that bullshit.
Yeah, I think the Celtics have a really good chance. I agree with you that the gap between Milwaukee and Boston is not huge by any stretch. One thing I do think with Boston is that like they're lacking an elite playmaker, and I see that as a bit of a hole. Like, they went and got Malcolm Brogdon this summer to kind of try to fill that void, and I thought that made a lot of sense at the time. But during this skid, I am starting to ask myself, like, was that enough, or like, do they need to trade Jaylen Brown for somebody that's really more of a playmaker? Because right now I see like two scorers. Their offense predominantly runs through two scorers, and then they make that work because they have such an excellent defensive group, and that's cool enough as a team concept. But I wonder if they need to diversify the offense a little bit and get somebody that like really thrives on making plays for teammates. That is what I question about Boston, but yeah, they've got a great chance. I like them over Philly myself.
Yeah, I think Boston's recent struggles, I'm not gonna like dismiss them. They I forget who it was on ESPN. It was like Kevin Pelton, one of those smart people that is into data, basically said the Celtics made like a deal with 3-point variance devil. And in the beginning of the season, the 3-point variance was like on their side, and they were absolutely cooking people, like best offense in league history, if it had maintained it. And now the 3-point shooting variance hasn't been so much on their side, but their defense is good. They're top 5 in offense and top 5 in defense. Only team in the league over the course of the season that's done that. That to me is huge, right? Like, that tells you both ends of the court. They're excellent. Robert Williams has missed some time. He always missed some time. And I think like that to me is like the big question. If Robert Williams, the third, the Time Lord, is healthy in the playoffs, throughout the playoffs, like actually healthy, not playing on like one leg, I think, yeah, like they're better than Milwaukee. Like, their depth, no one has the depth that this team does. But you're right that they don't have a playmaker. But you can overcome not having a playmaker with really good, smart players being committed to the offense. And I think there's a chance that they're just, during this kind of late season, just fatigue, that they're not committed to their offense, and they'll just take a shot because they can get a shot. But like, for them, the system and the relentlessness of the system is the playmaker. And I think they've lost that relentlessness. And like, that's why teams go and get these elite playmakers, because it means you don't fucking need a good system. It doesn't need to be relentless. You don't need to commit to it every single possession to have the offense be clicking. And I think if they get that back, and I think they can, because to me, that's just really a locking in mentally aspect to the game. I think their offense will tick up again. They'll get Time Lord back. And once again, no other team in the NBA can have Grant Williams have DNPs, healthy DNPs, right? Or like healthy 5 minutes. Like that's how deep this team is. Like they have the most guys to throw at you, the most guys to solve problems. And so that's why I'm still confident. Honestly, like if we're like doing picks, I'd probably pick them just to go against the grain.
Yeah, no, it's really narrow between those two. And without spoil wasting too many words on it, because we should probably get wrapping up soon. I think we both agree that they're like pretty clearly tier above the Sixers. Like just, that's not to say that Philly doesn't have a chance. They have, the new presumptive favorite for MVP, and they have James Harden, and they have a young star in Tyrese Maxey. This is a really good team, but I think we both like Milwaukee and Boston considerably more.
Okay, well, let's talk about why. Like, because I agree. Like, I like Boston. I like Philly. I mean, I like Philly, obviously, but I like Boston. I like Milwaukee more if they were to play the Sixers. And I think that's kind of odd that we're both there in that we did the dynamic duos. Who's the best dynamic duo in the NBA? Sixers
Yeah.
have it, right? Like, and usually we have the best duo in the NBA is we're probably the front runner for the championship, unless there's, triplets. And I don't think any team has a triplets right now. So what concerns do you have with Philly? I mean, because we're talking about a team that offensive rating, third, defensive rating, sixth, net rating, third. This team has got all the makings of a championship team. Plus, they got Joel Embiid. Plus, they got James Harden. Plus, they got Tyrese Maxey. Plus, they got Doc Rivers, who is the most proven playoff mastermind in NBA coaching history.
that took me a second. I think I see a couple of things let me start here, right? Daryl Morey's team building philosophy is effectively like get the best players and sort it out, right? Which is very solid. Obviously, good players have a way of winning basketball games in the NBA, right? But I do think that sometimes Morey teams suffer from a lack of like really deliberate, intentional team concept. The Celtics and the Bucks, it's like they have an identity. They're built on like switchable defense and 3-point volume for the Bucks, and sort of like I don't know, I guess ball movement for Boston. Like these are like principles that these teams have, and the Sixers, it's just kind of like two excellent players, another really good player, and appropriate role players. And I just don't see a similar team identity. And I think in the postseason that it's just a little more stoppable. Like you just kind of know what Philly's going to do, and it's easier to anticipate. It's like we just had to split our defensive pressure between Harden and Embiid as much as we can, and live with Maxey, basically. I'm not saying that's easy, but Boston has a really sick duo in their own right, and they got a bunch of other guys that contribute, and they're all on the same page with the same goals. That's one thing. And then another lesser concern I have with Philly is that this team lacks athleticism, man. They're just not very athletic. Outside of Jaden McDaniels, the whole rotation is kind of like old and slow and fat. So, like that's likely to be a problem as well. I think
Shake Milton's got some athleticism. Tyrese Maxey's got
fast.
some.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
but
true.
like Maxey's
athleticism,
is on one end of the court and on offense, and also the other thing is like, him and Harden, like when he's going fast, Harden and Embiid aren't there because they're not fast, right? Like they're not fast like that. So, a 1-on-2, 1-on-3 fast break, like that's a 1-on-2, 1-on-3 fast break. It's not so great. I actually think the reason why I'm not confident in Philly is this is a James Harden offense.
And can I hop back in on you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There is another thing. This is not quite the James Harden that we've come to know, right? Like he can't really beat guys in isolation the way he used to. He is showing some signs of aging. He's still an elite playmaker, but he's not the guy that he was before. And there's a lot of parity in the league right now. So maybe having the best duo in the league isn't quite what it has been in other years.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, like I think for me, it's like this is this is the reason why I think Philly is more beatable than the Bucks and the Celtics is because James Harden, it's a James Harden offense. And he's controlling the offense. He's pulling the strings. But realistically, is he good enough to do that for a championship level team? Obviously, this is a championship level team. But the problem is Embiid really isn't a playmaker. He's a play finisher. And so if you're a team and you're trying to beat the Sixers, to me, you just go out and you say, Embiid is going to do what Embiid does. Like, is he going to be able to score 65 points every game? I don't think so. Like, we'll live with his 40 piece, right? Like, we will live with a 40 piece. But if we hold James Harden to like 6 of 21 shooting, 7 turnovers, and 10 assists, like, you're going to win that game. And I think you can do that now because James Harden, as you said, like the step isn't quite there. He's more reliant on his 3-point shooting than ever before. And let's not kid ourselves. The Sixers are the best 3-point shooting team by percentage in the league, right? Like, do we look at this roster and see anyone on it that's a known 3-point sniper? Right? Like Tobias
Yeah,
Harris.
Toby Harris is a really good shooter, but yeah, he's not like
But
you
yeah,
wouldn't
there's
say
no,
like this is one of the very best shooters in the league, though.
yeah. And so to me, it's like, look, like these guys are feeding off the fact that Embiid gets double teams and Harden's one of the best playmakers in the league. But if you eat into Harden's effectiveness and you just say, hey, like we have a guy that can do enough against Embiid one on one, which I think we both agree the Celtics and the Bucks have. I think they're beatable. They become much more beatable than those other two teams because they don't have, I guess, as many solutions. Like they're going to play the way they're going to play, and it's either going to win or it's going to lose. But like they don't have solutions to problems
Yeah,
that teams maybe present them in the way that the Celtics and the Bucks do. And like that to me is like why I'm skeptical that they can beat. Likely they'd have to beat both of those teams, right? And I think that's the main thing is that like not only like the team like the Bucks, they're gonna get the 1 seed, and if they do, like that increases their chances dramatically because it means they probably have to beat one of those teams. And like at the end of the day, like that's it. Like the winning a championship is about how many good teams do you not have to beat.
yeah, I agree. Let's bring it home, hey.
Yeah. Okay.